Good evening, one and all. On behalf of Monster India, this is Namita Agarwal, and I would like to welcome one and all for this one of its kind session on your pathway to becoming CFO. This session has been specifically designed for young CAs to get a path as to how they can position themselves, what are the skill sets needed, and what are the questions which you should ask yourself if you want to go up the ladder and become the CFO of any company. We have a star-studded panel with us who's going to answer a lot of questions which come to your mind and give you insights about their journey, which will help you in becoming the next CFO. Most of you must be knowing that we are organizing a virtual career fair exclusively for hiring of CAs on 6th, 7th and 8th May. So as part of the same series, we are conducting a couple of these webinars for the career guidance of young CAs. I would like to introduce the panel one by one. We have Mr. B.R. Jaju, who is the Executive Director and CFO of DB Power, a mega venture of Bhaskar Group. He is a versatile individual having completed CSCS, LLB, a rank holder. He has worked for companies like Crompton Greaves, Z, Wellspin, and RIL. It's an honor to have you on board, sir.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Ravi Vishwanath, who is the CFO of Quest Corp, the parent of Monster India. Sir is a veteran in finance and has an experience of over 20 years in this domain. Having worked in versatile environment across sectors, he's a go-to person to know how to get things without losing the sight of the goal. He has worked with marquee organizations like TeamLease, Sun Microsystems, PwC, and so on and so forth. We welcome you, sir, for this session.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Deepak Kapoor, who is the CFO of Hakudo India with around 25 years of experience in managing startups, regional responsibilities, and multi-profile businesses. He has a strong exposure across spheres of corporate activity while working with startup ventures, managing multi-country operations. He has worked with Publicis Worldwide, Gap International, SR Bartley Boy, and more.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir, for this session. And then we have the moderator for the panel discussion, Mr. Dhaval Parvatikar, who is the CFO at Fleshman Hillard India. He's a CA and certified general management professional from IMA. He has over 10 years of experience and has worked with companies like Bharat Petroleum, Travagera, Publicis Group, and Omnicom Group. He is passionate finance professional and enthusiastic finance for non-finance trainer. So he always been mentoring CA students along with his job, and today he has accepted this invitation to act as a moderator for this panel discussion. Welcome and thank you, Dhaval, for accepting this. Over to you, Dhaval, to take up the questions for the session.
Thank you, Namita. Thank you, Monster.com and Namita for bringing us all together here. And I'm sure it's going to be it's going to be a very interesting discussion, and we'll get some great insights out of this. Super excited to be hosting this session because as a young chartered accountant, I always dreamt of becoming a CFO, and that's what many finance professionals aspire to be, a CFO or a CXO, or even a CEO of their own company for that matter, right? So that's why we have gathered together here to deconstruct some of the journeys here of established CFOs, and let's get to learn from them directly. So to start with you, Jaju sir, I would like to ask that today we know you as a reputed CFO of a certain organization and a certain stature, but we would like all three of you to quickly reflect on your first job and what was your role in your first job and where did you start? We would all be interested to know that. So we'll start with you, Jaju sir.
Thank you, Dhaval. I think first of all, let me spell out the purpose behind this all so that we can connect with Wipro. And that time there was nothing called concept of CFO, but I was heading entire accounts, legal, company secretarial, commercial, and directly I was working under Mr. Ajim Hassan Premji. The purpose I always look at as to become a successful CFO. That is what I was dreaming at that point in time. you have to enhance your worth of ambition, and side by side you create value for the organization, and that will take you to become most successful transformed CFO. So if in response to your query, I will like to cover 3 specific organizations, since I have traveled my journey for closely 44 years, and out of that 37 years I have worked de facto as a global CFO or group CFO. So if I look back, Wipro, where I was, my first job was say like finalizing accounts, and I still remember finalizing accounts means telling trial balance, and that time nothing like computer concept in way back 75, 76 I'm talking about. And the telling of trial balance and balance sheet up to the last decimal point, I used to derive biggest joy. So that was kind of happiness which you used to get. If accounts are reconciled, bank reconciliation is done, and you have focused on your basic accounting things, that was good enough. And your minimum basic reporting to the management in terms of minimum core MIS and your bank follow-ups and your reporting to basic shareholders, that was a limited rule, but still that I can say that I used to carry my night clothes and sleep in office and making sure the accounts are finalized. And that was kind of passion, commitment, focus with that we used to complete. And today, if I say somebody that I get pleasure in telling the trial balance, I think nobody will even like that to be heard. Then, what happened that now for contributory part in making CFO, the Wipro, the learnings which I got directly while working with Azim Premji is that you anticipate as a CFO along with him, what are the changes and first sign of signals are there, and you also adapt yourself to the requirements of that change. And that is why you might not be aware about that, that Wipro was that point in time making sunflower brand Vanaspati refined oil, hydrogenated oils, and maybe some soaps. The IT was a vision, and that got created in 7 years' time, and I was part of that, one of the task force member of the team of 4. And today, Wipro is known as IT giant world over. And that is a vision which he carried, and we people also toyed along with that lines. Then I moved to VIP Industries, where I found that company was losing on its margins. And despite that business growth and other things, but margins were getting eroded due to very hostile and rough and tough competition. So along with the owners, I was reporting to again CMD, and based on that, we felt that business strategy for CFO along with the owners should be to now acquire that companies which are causing that kind of unhealthy competition of discount wars. After that acquisition, the profitability of the companies went up. We could discipline the product portfolio, we could discipline the dealers network, we could discipline the price structure, and we could discipline the best of the business practices, working capital management, and that created a tremendous value. So I relate this with my initial remarks saying, you have to increase the worth of your own ambition, and in the process deliver values to the company. I'll take little liberty of sharing one more company, is Crompton Greaves, where I was global CFO for 9 years. And that is a company where, when I joined, it was probably people would laugh at me why I should join the company which was making heavy losses. But after a while in that journey as a CFO, with major financial turnaround, with the kind of divestment of non-performing businesses, strong attention to working capital management, M&A, many acquisitions, divesting that non-remunerative businesses and ventures, this company created a value to the shareholders almost 150 times in 9 years' time. In my humble way, I would like to share with this forum and with the people who are audiences over here. And because of that opportunity and my team's support, I was honored 3 times best performing CFO at national level. But that is what you have to, go along with the winds of the change. You have to see that what are the needs for the organization to outperform, and you become a partner with your CEO to work for that your aspect. So partnering with CFO, I again point, this is a very important point. So that company I thought I must share with you. So my learnings in nutshell is that you have to integrate your basic accounting and finance function with overall business vision and business objectives of the organization to become a successful CFO. I will pause for a while in response to your question now.
Sure, sir. Exciting journey indeed, and we have so much to learn from it. Ravi, I'll come to you for this question. A quick 30-second reflection of how your first job was and what were your key learnings from it.
Mine was very different. So if you take, I've started both consulting and industry at very senior levels. And so if I take my industry, if you take the industry, my industry stint, it's a little different in the sense that we co-founded some of the promoters and I co-founded an IT services company, which was my first shift from consulting to industry. And I was put into the hot seat of a CFO. So that was when I became a CFO for the first time. And I had absolutely no clue what that role entailed. We had to fill up some bank facility forms. I didn't know how to fill up those forms. I didn't know what was getting done. So there was a huge amount of learning compared to somebody who's kind of risen through the ranks. I was catapulted into the seat of a CFO. And that was very, very different. I had to spend a lot of time understanding the nuances, the basics of how one goes about it and then rises to the top. And that's how it happened for me actually over the years. After that, I've been CFO and head of finance at multiple organizations, but that was my first stint in the industry as CFO.
Deepak?
Yeah, so I think my journey in the industry started after I've had stints in various organizations into various multitudes of finance and accounting function. So I think my career can be divided into two parts. The first part was essentially trying to learn the ropes to be able to have a feet in finance, accounting, taxation, legal, and I could get that exposure across about 2-3 companies that I joined in first part of my career. And I actually hold that in a very good stead for myself because once I got elevated to the position of a CFO, which was probably 4 or 5 years into my career, I could then, since due to my background in these various spheres of finance, I could basically get a grasp of an understanding. You see, at the end of the day, a CFO is a sort of a generalist among specialists within the organization. There is a need to be, and he's a specialist generalist. He's not just a generalist, but a very specialist sort of a generalist. He needs to be kind of have an understanding of all the nuances, manage a team. And I think that stint really helped me to be able to kind of have a real good stead and a good understanding of the business. And as Mr. Jadoo mentioned, nothing can, the role of the CFO is absolutely incomplete if your one foot is not on the business side or the industry side. You are a partner to the CEO. There is no one who should be closer to the CEO in terms of an organization other than the CFO. There is immense potential that the vision of the CEO and the CFO that can drive and take the organization forward. So we've had or rather, I've had instances of having worked through my career with like loss-making companies, startup companies, and the whole journey of transiting them from being a loss-making to kind of getting break-even or a profit, or seeing a startup growth from a point of absolute zero when you're amongst the first or second employee in the company is actually something which you cannot describe. It's like memories which you always cherish and always kind of, I think back at times and get that joy of still remembering those days when I was standing outside, say, custom official doors or standing for days and days together to get clearances. So those were real days when you were on your feet, even though I was a CFO, but then I was really on my feet with my both hand and my both feet on the ground to be kind of doing what anybody would do to make a company of a certain stature. So yeah, a very interesting journey and very interesting times.
So much to learn from all of you guys. Cool. So picking up that point about auditing and industry. So my next question is that maybe Ravi, you can start with this. How is industry fundamentally different from working in an audit firm or a consulting firm? And most of us will make that transition. Most of the young chartered accountants come from an audit firm kind of a background, and then they try to make their mark on the industry side. What do you think is the fundamental shift, or how do they rewire their mind, to progress on the industry side better?
See, in consulting, what happens is you get to work with companies across different industries, actually. And so you get to see a broad spectrum of what's happening across the economy, across the corporate entities, actually. You could probably be auditing an automotive company, and from there you may go on to something else, and to something else. And it gives you a feel or a flavor of how each of those industries work. Whereas in an industry, it gets into a more narrower, but more specialization is required as far as industry is concerned. So, which is why I've seen a lot of people who initially, when they are not clear about which industry do I pick to settle down, so they take a consulting job. They work with different industries and find out the one with which they have a connect to, and where they feel has got maximum potential going forward, and then they find themselves a job in such industry. I've seen that happen many a time. Like I said, industry is far more diverse. You get a flavor of what's happening across multiple industries in consulting. Whereas in industry, it's very, very specific to that particular industry that you are actually, that you work in.
So Jaju sir, we heard about your, diverse career journey. And so many times, many youngsters might have this question that there are multiple departments when it comes to a large company. There'll be finance and accounting, there'll be FP&A, there'll be commercial finance, there could be taxation department. Do you think it is important that over a period of like 10, 15 years, you get diverse exposure in all of the departments? Or is it okay if I don't get in one? Let's say I have no experience about managing a treasury function, but can I still lead a company as a CFO? What's your take on it, sir?
The clear answer is, going by my own experience and going by the experience which I have witnessed and heard from my best global CFOs, answer is no, if they are not aware about what is happening other side of the. They need not know that very high level technical intense knowledge. For example, if it is something like pharma, they need not know how that molecule is developed, but they still need to know what are the business implications on terms of its logistic costs, tax implications, governance issues, and anything on his cash flow, anything on his profitability or customer profitability. So these various things, CFO should be mindful about knowing that. So that's why, I always call, if one wants to become really as a transformational CFO or most successful CFO, he has to do 360-degree analysis of every event. If silo knowledge or truncated knowledge will take him at nowhere. So answering your question is that that CFO need to possess, he need not be specialist. As gentleman has said, I think Deepak mentioned he should be journalist and not the specialist. I think Ravi mentioned. So he has to be fully abreast of all the general knowledge of his business. What are the business value drivers? कहाँ से कहाँ पैसा बन रहा है? Which are the customers contributing this most profitability? Which are the product lines which are giving him the best EBITDA margins? Which are the geographies which are contributing the maximum profitability to the organization? What is his cost to his inputs? What is his distribution and logistic cost? He has a cycle time, and his most important, which I always focus, is free cash flow. If he has knowledge, basic business knowledge on all this, I think that will enable him to perform as a successful and contributory CFO. Otherwise, he's a glorified CFO, either as an accountant or tax officer, or as a company secretary or compliance officer. I'm meaning as a real grand CFO. That is what this seminar is for, and I'm bringing that experience. Maybe I like to share later on your permitting that what are the enabling points, how do he has acquired, which are his focus areas, maybe.
Sure, later. We're coming to that, sir. Deepak, your views on getting diverse exposures across various departments, because it may happen that in our careers, we may not get all the exposures. Like, for example, a tax manager might report to me when I'm the CFO, but I may have never worked in tax department before. So what's your take on it? Will we
I
still
have
be
a
able to
certain,
lead?
you know,
Yeah.
my answer will be somewhat biased because, like I mentioned in my career, the initial part, I've had the privilege of having put my finger into virtually every aspect of the finance function, of the finance and the accounting function, right from investment banking, right to taxation, to even legal, to of course accounting has always been there. So my answer to that would be somewhat biased because since I've had that exposure and I've kind of carried that exposure with a great deal of value as I have progressed in my career. But having said that, I think it may not be possible for all of us to have traversed that journey in this manner. I think, but certain aspects of this function, like for example, finance, treasury, cash, as Jaju mentioned, cash is king, cash management. There are certain aspects to it which definitely one should have an exposure to or have an understanding of or have an experience with before moving into that role. Because at the end of the day, wherever you can, as a CFO and as a pure CFO, the way you can add value is to various aspects of managing cash for one and managing the regulatory environment. Now, regulatory environment also at times throws a lot of opportunities, and I think a CFO is the best person to understand and assess as to what are the opportunities that do come by with the changes in the regulation. So an understanding of these somewhat become a basic requirement before taking on the role. Of course, accounting, auditing will have always been a part of a CA's journey, especially during the 3 years of articleship. But I think there should be adequate exposure before the person can really do justice to this job, primarily in fields of cash management and regulations, etc. And once again, I think the role is never complete, and I think Mr. Jazu was very, very vocal about it, without having a finger and understanding of the business and playing a role in that journey of the growth of business of the company.
Cool. So Ravi, my next question is to you. So many times young chartered accountants have this bias that industry sounds monotonous. It sounds like 40 years we are going to sit on the same desk and do the same job. Whereas consulting sounds very happening. Today you're working with a software company. Tomorrow you're moving to a power company, something like that. So what's your take on it? Is industry really monotonous?
Not really at all. It's not monotonous at all. It all depends on how much you're willing to learn and change. Because if you join an industry that's growing along with you, then there's so much of things that you learn that you need to understand and learn nuances about the business, nuances about people, nuances about so many things. So it's you never have a dull moment in your life in industry unless the industry unless the company where you're working is kind of stagnating, then it can get boring. But if the industry that you're working in is poised for growth, believe me, there's so much happening that external environment, internal environment, there's so much that you can learn and add value and move up the value chain, which is how we have seen so many CFOs who have moved into the roles of CEOs in some of these industries, only because they have over the years, gained so much of knowledge about the company and about the industry that they operate in, that the management, that the board, etc., have deemed it fit for them to occupy the corner room. So I would not for a minute, having worked on both sides, I can tell you that with a certain degree of conviction that it's just not the case.
Well, I'm sure it will be very.
And
dynamic.
if I may just add to this, that the environment today is so dynamic. The external world is so dynamic that in order to keep abreast with the changes, you probably need not one, maybe 3 or 4 CFOs sitting there to be able to manage and help the company charter the course. I mean, virtually every day there's a change. There is change at the competition level. There is a change generally in the environment. So I think yes, there is never a dull moment at this, especially in these times that we are living.
Cool. So, like Jaju sir mentioned earlier, that understanding business is of prime importance as a CFO. So, Jaju sir, what would be your top 2 to 3 tips to quickly pick up the business, or how quickly we can understand about the business?
The first very basic thing I will share with the learnability part. I think Namita possibly in my introduction missed one important aspect. I have passed my MBA at age of 65.
Wow.
After doing my chartered accountancy way back in 1972, some of probably were not born that point in time. Then CS and LLB continuing part of my organizations. Now, why I have done that is not only just to accumulate degrees on my visiting card. It is basically, I believe, unless you renew your existing competencies, skills, you have to be learner and remain as a student all the time, because the discretionary cost which can be controlled. You find out which can be called as a variabilization of the cost is a new concept. I will not take much detail on because of paucity of time possibly. Then you know that what are the outsourcing areas which you can do away your non-performing, non-critical activities and outsource that, reduce the cost. You can reduce quite number of ways and means that cost efficiency. Raising the funds is not again a simple, again there is a financial engineering. What kind of product of capital fundraising you bring into the company? How more than that, how do you manage that cost to bring down your effective cost of funds? It could be conversion to some FCNR product. It could be suppliers credit. It could be swap of some other funds with your low cost capitals, ECBs, FCCBs, various things. If CFO is not conversant and versatile and resourceful, then he will not be able to bring the actual results, because I believe in end-to-end execution. So basically you ask for two. And third, which I will say, which is equally important, is now performance measurement. Because unless you have a capability to measure performance of the organization, you will not know where do you stand and where your organization stands. Now, performance measurement will include in my toolbox two things. One is the measurable financial tools, which we all know that how do you measure your profitability, you know how do you measure your growth, process cost and blah, blah, a lot of things, which means returns to the shareholders, ROC and all kind of ratios. But non-financial measurement also CFO is involved, and which we were doing very, very diligently and systematically in my all previous organization, including this current organization, which can include your customer engagements, your new products launch, your customer profitability, many other parameters are there, defect ratios, and CFO is involved. It's not that CFO is not involved. I used to be, entire IT setup was reporting to me. So a new product launch committee, I was the head of that committee. So it's not that you can't do non-conventional things, you can still do that. So it is something like that. You have to keep renewing your own skills and competencies. You have to know how do you achieve that cost reduction without harming to your revenue and profitability and liquidity. And third is also that apart from that, your compliances, which are most important aspect in current world.
Jaju sir said that, Deepak, this question is to you. So do you think a management certification is a must today? Can somebody do without it, or how is it going to supplement your finance role? So if you can throw some light on it.
Well, I think management certification besides the CA degree,
yes,
master's
MBA or
in
PG
business
diploma or something
administration.
like that.
Yeah, I think it just adds another avenue and another flavor and another sort of dimension to your to the person's understanding, to the ability to be able to kind of understand things from a different light. So I too, as a professional, I mean, I was already 10 years into my career, into my qualification as a CA, was when I decided to take up an MBA. So of course, my span was not as wide as Mr. Jaju. I think like hats off that at that age he could think of doing an MBA. But I too kind of decided to do that, and that really added a great deal of flavor. again, not from the perspective of just clearing exams, as in CA we used to often do. It was more with the perspective of kind of reading textbooks from the first page to the last page to like get a better understanding. I think any degree will add a great deal of influence, a great deal of character, and a great deal of confidence and self-belief to a person. Of course, the real world tends to be not to be so perfect as it is in the textbooks, but I think there is always what we learn from textbooks is a sort of a method in madness, the madness being the real world, and the textbooks providing a sort of a method as to how to traverse this madness.
Cool. So, Ravi, next question to you. What percentage of your day do you spend on compliance, and what percentage of your day do you spend on commercial or strategic elements?
Very interesting question. So there was a time when I would spend almost 25% of my time just to ensure compliance are getting done as CFO. 25 to 30%, and the remaining 70% of my time would go into other strategic, business, accounting, or other matters.
At large. That's my hardcore experience. I have served 37 years as a CFO of large Indian conglomerates, and I have seen that got appreciated for me.
Thank you so much for sharing your experiences, sir. Cool. So we are almost coming to the end of the session. So we will start with the conclusion round. So you all have 120 seconds with you. And the last question would be that, if somebody who's in the junior or middle management, what one or two things that they need to work on, whether it's skill sets or qualifications or anything of that sort, so that they take that leap to the CFO level, or they get ready to become that CFO. Ravi, maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing that I found with chartered accountants, especially, which a couple of areas that people need to brush up upon, is communication skills, representation skills. I mean, these are two distinct areas that they need to focus on. Adoption, and then, embracing technology is very, very important. So these three, I would say, are absolutely important if they have to if they're thinking of a long-term kind of career in industry and things like that. Not just industry, I mean, in fact, for that matter, whether it's consulting or industry, I think these three are very important. The other areas that I would actually look at is, spending, you have to decide at what stage you are in and spend, a fair amount of clock time and cognitive time. You have to apportion clock time and cognitive time appropriately. When I say clock time, it's the amount of hard work you do on certain areas, and cognitive time is the time that you spend thinking of what can be done better and so on. So at the initial part of your career, it's probably more clock time and less cognitive time. And as you rise up, you probably switch the two around, actually, whereas your mind is constantly thinking of what can I do different. I mean, that happens even when you're not in the office, maybe something else. So the amount of mind, that happens all the time, actually. So, and more than anything else, I think today, analytical skills are very, very important. Industry knowledge is very important. So try and read as many business newspapers as you can. Get as much of information that you can possibly get, and there's enough to be. There's so many good books, and that one can keep keep sharpening yourself all the time. So you need to be. That ability to change, ability to learn is very, very key. Like Mr. Jarvis said, if you could at the age of 65 go ahead and do his MBA, it means that he wanted to learn. He wanted to learn to be different, to be better. That's something that should be driving you from within every possible day. Have I learned something today should be what you should be asking yourself at the end of every day. Which means that you are making yourself better. You're making yourself kind of indispensable for the organization that you work in.
Absolutely. Hunger to learn is absolutely important, like you said, Ravi.
Yeah.
Cool. Deepak, one to two things that young
Yeah,
middle management can do to get into senior management.
So I think Ravi has added virtually everything that a typical CA would not like need to acquire in order to move up the ladder. I think it's what I'll just add to it is that things like interpersonal skills, as in the ability to be able to interact well across departments, across. So if you are a beginner in a large company or a middle management person in a large company, how do you get to understand the business if you are not kind of going out, reaching out to the right people to get a flavor as to what the business is all about? It's I think besides and that would always hold a person in a very good stead when he or she transitions into the role of a CFO. So I think just to add to that, I think it's very important to be able to interact well with people. And as you grow into sort of a middle management sort of a role, and when you are sort of a manager to people, it's very important to put faith and give them the right direction. You need to develop a team, a solid team who can probably take on all the sort of regular tasks so that it frees up your mind space to be able to concentrate more on the strategic as well as the business related decisions that you need to focus upon. So my only add to what Ravi said is it's important to be able to interact well with people across the organization.
Raju sir?
Yeah, basically, if I enough is said that's best qualities, I will just touch base with one very strong quality. Since your topic is your pathway to becoming CFO, people will respect you, CFO, if you are successful. So the basic thing is patience, persistence, and what you call say your perspiration. This is the most unbeatable combination, and I will like to just take 10 seconds to explain what I mean to that. Many of the young chartered accountants in its career or in a path to become CFO, they tend to follow gauging path. Gauging means herd mentality. Whoever goes like, cattle's, gauging wala. तो उसके साथ में वो herd mentality में चलते हैं. They don't see any success and meaningful contribution to the organization. Second path comes, they observe minutely, and then they choose that because of their observation, they tend to follow particular path to become successful CFO. Third part, little intelligent category of my friend chartered accountants, they follow scientific inquiry path. They do careful analysis of cause and effect and then decide their path to become CFO. I want to leave one important message, not for sake of saying I'm saying that, but for bringing out the stunning results as a CFO. I have been striving, not that I've been successful 100%, I'm learning for that. That is theory of contemplation. Whatever is happening within the organization, the CFO or potential CFO must sometimes challenge that existing paths, existing processes, existing systems, existing way of working, whether it is a treasury department or accounts department or compliance department or tax department or legal department. Something can be done differently. And there are ways and means to do things differently. This theory of challenge or theory of contemplation will bring a lot of differentiation to that CFO, and he will get recognized, yes, something in pathway he has been successful. I think that kind of mentorship practice and guiding will help them to really become as a CFO to reckon with.
Thank you so much, sir. Cool. So we will be concluding the session, and so much of great insight in there, right from the PLSP framework, which was really helpful, to great insights from both worlds of consulting and industry by Ravi. Some great insights from Deepak about communication and how why a management qualification will add that required breadth to your career. And thank you so much, sir. It was really insightful. So many great tips out there. I'm sure many young professionals who are looking at this are really benefited from this session. Thank you so much. Namita, over to you.
Thank you everyone for the wonderful session and sharing the golden wisdom with the young CAs. Sure, it will, make a lot of difference in their attitude and their journey to become the next CFO. and maybe next time around they will be, some of them might become moderators in 5 years down the line, like Dhaval. That will be the achievement we'll have after this event. So thank you everyone for joining in. Thank you all the participants. We look forward, all of you who are looking for a job, to come for the virtual career fair and do pass on the word to your fraternity. This is one of its kind where a lot of big brands are going to be coming, and we'll be announcing the list of companies by tomorrow sometime. We have a lot of questions coming in, Dhaval. So should we take up? We have.
Yeah, I'm sure if the panelists are okay, we can spend
Yeah,
5
okay,
minutes
I'm
on
okay.
questions.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Perfectly fine.
Okay. So let me try and quickly.
There is one standard question on the number of attempts. Why do companies?
Namita, you want to ask that?
So guys, I'm saying that, though the criteria is there, but there are a lot of stories where, people with attempts have also, been able to reach the highest level of success. And you just have to have the right attitude. You understand what is your weakness. Even if attempt is your weakness, you can make a lot of other things your strength, right? So it's not necessary that a ranker will have all his strengths. It's possible that a ranker has done something, articleship from a, say, not a very good firm or something. So there, every candidate will have its own strength and weaknesses. Let attempt be there as a thing, and just work on your other skill sets and everything. I think that should.
Yeah, I think I'll just add
Yeah.
one point to that.
Yeah, I'll just,
Yeah, Ravi
Yeah.
also. I think everybody
Ravi,
has
yeah,
to add.
when I look to hire chartered accountants, I don't go by the number of attempts. I want to meet the person. I want to speak to him. I want to find out what, like you said, the attitude probably is more important. Attitude is everything.
Yeah.
Because
Guys, have an abundant.
that's what, yeah.
Guys,
I
have an
think it's
abundance
number-
mindset. There are enough companies out there who don't ask for attempts. Okay.
Correct.
And
Yeah,
after
absolutely.
5 years, I'm sure nobody is going to ask for your attempts. It's all your contributions that is going to speak.
Exactly.
A number of attempts are somewhat a reflection of your ability to do hard work. Yeah? I mean, CA at the end of the day is not an easy game, and your perseverance, your hard work, your attitude all reflects in your ability to clear even after a number of attempts. And I think these are very important characteristics to be looked into when hiring a person. The person's flexibility, ability, perseverance are extremely important apart from the technical skills.
Yeah.
And since you've read the same text many a times, I think your technical skills would possibly be unparalleled.
Right.
So on that, one more thing, I had done a poll recently where I had asked what is the reason you would hire a candidate for his, what is the paramount thing, like among the, it was attitude, soft skill, technical skills and experience. So about 65% of the employers had said it's attitude, because I think attitude is everything is a subset of attitude. If the attitude is right, everything will fall in place in terms of your soft skill, technical skills. You will obviously enhance it, because if your attitude is right. So
there's a golden rule. Namita, there's a golden rule that says hire for attitude, train for skills. So you can train anybody so long as the attitude is right.
Yeah. Nice one. Yeah, I'll take another question is, should I pursue MBA or join the industry after clearing CA at the age of 24?
We have touched that briefly. My view on that would be that get some corporate experience first, then decide if MBA is actually for you.
Yeah.
You'll be able to relate with the concepts better if you have some work experience behind you.
There's one other thing that I would say, which is MBA is not the only additional qualification that one can look at. There's a CFA which is going to play a very important role as India moves towards a $5 trillion, $7 trillion economy. You can imagine the size of the capital markets that you will probably have, and CFAs will probably be in greater demand at that point of time. So I think a CFA is not something to be ignored at all at this point.
What are the types of books young CAs should read? I think they,
maybe
after
one recommendation
reading, they
from
want
each
to.
of you. One recommendation from each one of you.
Books, huh?
One recommendation from each one of you would be,
on the books.
That will be great.
I think I will say first.
Yeah, sure, sir.
There's nothing like the reading books, which books, at least he should read continuous basis some book which enhances his knowledge, which also improves his positive attitude, and which also brings him with a renewed skills and competencies so that he remains abreast. And he has to have that kind of passion, take those learnings from the books and also try to implement on his workplace. So I would say that there is nothing like, I can say that only this book is better or this book is better, but he should be a regular religious reader of some books. That is very important.
In addition to books, I would say, at least 2 business newspapers a day.
Of course, of course.
Undoubtedly. Keep abreast yourself of all the knowledge, and I think books or no books, just be yourself. That's most important.
Namita, I will just share one thought with you. Whatever you do, whether reading books or kind of things, but they get constrained with that. Why should I do that? They get limited to this is my only periphery. Give them one strong message that don't limit your challenge your limits. So they don't have to now prescribe any boundaries. It should be a global boundaries. The mindset, once their horizon is broadened, then I tell you they will have a tremendous amount of learnings, because then your pool size is increasing from a small pond to big ocean. Then there is enough learnability.
Yeah.
Cool. So one book recommendation from my end would be Who Says Elephants Can't Dance. It's a turnaround story of IBM, and it's completely amazing of how it was turned around. And it was a huge mammoth organization, and the kind of challenges that the CEO who took over had was truly amazing. So Who Says Elephants Can't
The
Dance?
7 best habits of the COVID book, I was quite impressed with that.
Yeah.
Cool. One more
I think we are
question.
done with the
Yeah.
questions. Others
Okay.
are all ones which we have already covered in the session itself. So thank you everyone for joining in. Take care. Be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much.
Thank you so much.
All
Thank
the
you so much,
best, everyone.